we are learning something else, the publics of public relations. That is the new topic for this week, publics of public relations. So the word public is a term to identify all those members that come into contact, like they associate with the establishment at hand. So there must be a way, there must be a link between the organization and the establishment. So there can be people inside the establishment while some are outside, but there must be a very strong link between the establishment and them. Now, publics are those groups of people internally and externally with whom organization communicates with. The groups of people who are either internally inside the organization or outside the organization with whom the organization communicates or talks with. Public relations activities are not directed at the general public, but they are normally to a group of selected public. So we do not give out, we do not share our ideas of the company, the plans we have for the company with anybody outside there. But we normally share this information with a specific group outside there. So those are the groups that we want to know. So notes zinasema we only share with a subdivision of the great public outside there. So we want to learn those small groupings of publics that exist. So the 10 publics are as follows. Number 1, we have the host community, the community there. So the community, it depends with the type of organization you are working for or the type of organization that is offering PR. E.g., the organization can be a factory, the organization can be a local authority, kama local government, it can be a department, it can be a laboratory, it can be an airport, it can be an army barracks, police headquarters, all that can be an example of an organization. So those people who surround that organization are the ones who are known as the community. Even when different organizations share the same location, each and every organization will have its own publics. So for example, kuna Zetech, kando ya Zetech kuna police station. All of them have their own publics that they communicate to. Number 2, the second public we have in place is potential employees. So potential employees are normally those people whom you are likely to employ inside the organization. So you are likely to recruit these members inside the organization. Those are the potential employees. So they may exist in the organization or they can be recruited into your organization. Example of an organization is school, it is a university, it is a college, any. So employees don't seek unemployment. That one is something you should know, even you as an individual. Do not look for unemployment. Usikuwe mtu mwenye anajisikia tu nahitaji kazi. But please, you need to understand the company very well so that you can do what your employer wants you to do and even go extra mile in place. So employees don't seek employment with an organization, but they need to understand what an organization does and regard as a good employer. So usitafute kazi that you want to feel like you are working, but go and work where you know what the organization expects from you. That is when you are termed as a potential employee. Bora utakuwa tu kishindwa ukifutwa over and over again because you do not understand the objectives, mission, philosophies of a company. The third public we have in place are employees. So these are those people who will be hired into the organization. So there are different kinds of employees in any organization. We have top management, we have executives, we have office staff, we have warehouse workers, sales staff, servicing staff. Each and every organization have its own employees on board. Those employees, they can be in one building working together, or they may be scattered, like the airline crews. Those people who work for airline personnel, the crews, the chain stores, the field sales people who keep on moving from one place to the other. At the same time, employees also have different salaries because they are of different calibers. They have different wages, social life, ethnic groups, and so on. So in any company that is offering PR, remember we will have employees to work. There will be employees of different cadres. Above all, they will all work inside that building, or they will be scattered. Kama Zetech, tuko na main campus, tuko Stanbank, tuko Pioneer, tuko Agriculture House. You see, all work for Zetech, but people are scattered. So hiyo ndio example, na nimepeana pia example like in the airline industry, you will be coming from Kenya to China, China to America, like that. People can be scattered. Above all, remember, you will be remunerated differently. Mshahara itakuwa tofauti. Your social life is different, and even your ethnicity can be different. The fourth public in PR is the supplier. So remember, supplier is the one who issues us with raw materials and even services that we will require in our industry. So there are two types of suppliers. We have a service supplier, that is supplier number one, service supplier, who will give us services to the industry, kama energy, kama maji, kama si hotel. It is only in the hotel industry tunajenga borehole. Therefore, kama ni Ian ama watu wa tourism, hamwezi, at times your office will not require too much water like in the hospitality industry. You will be forced to take it from Nairobi Sewerage Company. So water will be a service for you guys. So that supplier is very important. The second supplier we have is the supplier of raw materials. And raw materials come in different things. They will be ingredients for cooking. Raw material inaweza kuwa kalamu. Raw material inaweza kuwa kitu ya kupackage, box ya kupackage so that muone ni brand, Zetech University. And even a supplier of raw material can be professional services. Unamuita anaongelesha staff wako how to do something, how to take care of snakes in the park, how to take care. We keep on looking for professional advices from time and again. We even call people in the hospitality industry, wale ma consultants. We call them to talk to our waiters, to talk to our kitchen staff. That one is known as a supplier who is offering raw materials. So raw materials come in different categories. They can be components, they can be packaging materials, they can be professional services. While services as supplier ni kama energy, Kenya Power. Maji is also another example. The fifth public we have in place are the financial public. And with the financial public, we begin with the local bank around you. Remember, when we think about financial public, ni pesa that rings into our market, our mind. So the local bank will be a very good member of the financial public because it will assist us when we don't have money in place. Mishahara yetu tutakuwa tunalipa hapo, but as we do that business with the bank normally creates shares so that it can participate in the local stock market, money markets, and any other business activity so that it can generate more money to help it support also its own publics. Another public in PR are distributors. They are the people who handle our goods between our establishment and the consumer. So they will handle goods, and the most distributors handle goods in large amounts, in bulks, between a producer, which is the hotel, hospitality organization, to the final consumer, who is even the guest. Producers differ according to the type of organization. Hapo organization tuko na Zitech University, tuko na hotel, tuko na tourism fund, tuko na schools. So distributors here will differ in place. Examples of distributors we have in the PR, who can assist us in the PR industry. Tuko na kama brokers, tuko na retailers, tuko na wholesalers, tuko na premium offers, gift catalog officers, tuko na commission agents, and they are so many, dependently which industry you are talking about. In the hospitality and tourism industry, tuko na tour wholesalers na tour wholesalers and tour retailers, the travel agents and the tour operators, who act as our major distributors amongst others. Another public we have in place are consumers and users. So these are normal, we normally term them, most consumers are welcome, Snyder. So another public we have in the PR is consumers and users. A consumer is normally a secondary supplier. Yeye huwa anachukua from another big supplier, alafu ndio sasa aje akauzie the final consumer. Ni kama mama kibanda in a layman's language. Mama kibanda huwa anachukua kwa supplier mwingine mkubwa kumliko, then ndio anakuja anatuuzia sasa yeye pia ndio apate profit yake kidogo. Huyo anaitwa a secondary supplier. So a consumer can buy from a secondary supplier or can buy from the primary supplier, who will be either a distributor or the major company itself. So the consumers, they are the trade and industrial buyers, and they are the secondary suppliers when the product is used in the assembly or production place. So sana we meet our secondary suppliers in those companies that will do the work of assembling vitu za kutengeneza kitu, alafu the last person will now make it work. Kama in the motorcar industry, we normally collect, in the motor vehicle industry, we normally collect several things together. then ndo zitashikanishwa pamoja ndio zitumike, ndio sasa zitengenezwe gari. Uone sasa gari imesimama hapo as a whole. So consumers in the motor vehicle industry, they operate in such a way that they assemble the things that are required to make a vehicle. Then they make it, then it will now be sold to the final consumers. So consumers here being a public, it depends with the industry type. Like in the hospitality and tourism industry, we don't need this category of public, because it is just the supply our goods to the hotel. And we also have another example for the manufacturer require milk. Kitu kama cheese. Cheese is always an ingredient of fresh milk, curdled milk, evil. So cheese, yes, can be used there as an example, because several other things will be brought in place besides the fresh milk and the curdled milk to make cheese, which will be sold in the market to be used for different production purposes. The next public we have are opinion leaders. The next public, the next The next public we have are opinion leaders, also very important. And opinion leaders, they are people who normally help us in expressing what we have in mind about our products and services. The reason why we use opinion leaders is because when they talk, they can either pull people to our organization or they can send people away. So they normally express what they think about your products and services, or which can harm your establishment, or it can be very advantageous to your establishment. So opinion leaders differ. For example, we have them, they will come as activists, or they will come as the public figures and celebrities that we have. But remember, they have to have a major impact into your organization. He or she will be termed as an opinion leader when they have a huge impact inside the organization. So they are opinions, and they can harm or help your organization, or they can keep on changing. Like in school context, an opinion leader ni kama parent. Jua is positive and negative idea in place. Other organization will call for different types of opinion leaders. In the government, we also have opinion leaders. And remember, it is the work of an opinion leader in the government to articulate democracy. To articulate is to bring the process of democracy. We have different methods of governance: aristocracy, democracy, monarchy, and dictatorial. So once you have an opinion leader in place, he or she can initiate other members so that democracy can be brought in a dictatorial environment, monarchical environment, or some countries call themselves democratic states. So the purpose of an opinion leader is normally to express his or her views, what people are saying about the organization. And it can be positive when he or she has been paid to market it. And it can be seriously negative if he or she also has other motives behind him or her. So just as I have said, establishments differ, and you will have different opinion leaders in your establishment. The other public we have in place, trade union. They are very important. Trade unions are normally powerful parties that air out grievances or what they think about something. So they can be commercial, they can be industrial, and even trade unions can be political in nature. If a trade union is commercial, it addresses business issues. If it is industrial, ni work related kama ile ya Atuoli. If it is political, the trade union will address politics in place. So trade unions normally employ experts dependent on which type of trade union it is. If it is a political, it hire people who understand politics, the political analysts, wale watu wa development studies, international relations, those people who know to articulate democracy are the people who will be brought there. If it is a trade union for the hospitality industry, we will bring out the big wigs of the hospitality industry, consultants, managers, and you just help the industry grow in place, dependent with your industry. The last public we have on board is the media, and this one is a very fragile public, and you must know how to take good care of the media. They're always treated a bit differently from the first 9 publics we have discussed. The reason is because they are the people who can carry that information. They can publish it in their way or in your way. And you know, when they write an article in your way, it will favor you. If they publish an article in their way because you have done something wrong to them, they want to finish you, they will also finish you as required. So the media, they are completely given a different treatment than those other public. Since, number one, they are the organization direct route to public. So they can speak by the use of a microphone, they can go to the television, they can write something on social media, on the newspapers. People will access that information. Number two, the reason why we treat them differently is publishers, editors, producers, and even journalists have total control over what public see and hear in the media. So our watu tena, they are the people who write, and they're the people who can speak, and so much more. So if you mistreat them, if you do something wrong, remember, they can bring out what you never thought will come into the public eye. And that is how you can even lose your guests or your customers inside your establishment. Number three, why we treat them a bit different is that every editor, journalist, producer is always looking for one thing in their life. What trend? Wakwe awarded journalist of the year, editor of the year. That is what they are always looking for. So they have to look for those sweet and interesting stories to write so that they can get the right award. Therefore, if something happens negatively about the organization, if you befriend media, they will always come and tell you what is happening before it is aired out. And even if they hear something negative about you being spoken outside there. They can be able to come and inform you so that you can do the different publishes, you can do PR, you can advertise so that you can restore back your original image. So those are the publics of public relations. Unless you have a question before I move on. Reasons for defining public: to identify all groups of people relative to a public relations program. So remember, we have always been talking about different public relations program. It can be a product launch, it can be a sports event, it can be a corporate social responsibility. When you define a public, you normally know whom you are going to address when you have a public relations program in place. So maybe it is something new, maybe it is a new drink. You can know which people to address. If it is a new drink, you will know whether should I go to the host community, should I address it to the media, should I address it to the suppliers. So when you put people into groups, you know whom to visit when you have a specific issue. The second reason for defining public is to establish priorities when the scope is to establish priorities within the scope of the budget and resources. So there was a time I also addressed about a budget in PR department, which is very important, and its resources. So when you define a public, you can work within the budget cash that you have been offered to. Above all, your priorities are always set. Last week tulikuwa tunaongea about objectives, how we set objectives in the PR department. So when you have a specific public you want to address, remember even objectives are always set right, because the objectives are created in such a way that they target them specifically and not any other person. And when you target a customer specifically with objectives, you now normally pressure him or her to purchase the product. The other reason why we define public is to select. That one was my typing error. I'm sorry. Kindly, you will adjust that. The reason why we define public is to select media techniques. Is to select media. The other reason why we define publics is to select media techniques. Media techniques ni zile za So I was talking about the other reason why we define public. Surely. Why we define public is to select media techniques for the different publics that we talk about. So when you have defined your publics, you normally know what those publics want, and you know the caliber of publics that you have in place. For example, Media techniques will differ when you want to address different type of people. Media techniques are that time whereby you will use a vehicle. You will use a vehicle with music, with a microphone, then you speak so that people can listen to it. You can use posters in place. You can go through the social media. So marketing, last semester, some people, when you wanafanya marketing, say you did marketing sometimes back, we had some of the PR media. We had some of the PR media in place. So when I talk about selecting the right media techniques, are those techniques that you will use to publish it. So to use technique to reach your public as required. Then the other reason for defining public is to prepare the message in acceptable and effective form. Come in the right font, the right font size, right font colors. If it is something that is supposed to be presented, the presenter also has to look elegant in regard to the type of public that you are addressing. So messages can be written or messages can be transmitted or communicated orally. If it is something written, it has to be of the right font size, mtu asistrain akisoma. Font colors, kama ni picha inafaa, kama picha itawekwa, picha has to be clear so that watu waone vizuri hiyo picha. Something that will reflect the establishment you are working for. Kama ni where somebody is going to deliver that message while speaking. Remember, in the PR department, we normally have a spokesperson. Not everybody speaks. So the spokesperson has to look elegant. The hair, clothing, shoes, and then deliver that message as it had been discussed in the department. Consequences of not defining public. Number one, efforts and funds will be scattered indiscriminatively in attempt to reach too many publics. So when you don't clear up whom you want to address, the good strength and effort you had in place to do that work can be wasted because the right publics have not been chosen, and even funds can be wasted in place. The second reason, as a consequences, the same message would be issued irrespectively of its suitability to different groups of people. That one is also a disadvantage. That means a message can be repeated to different kinds of public. Those people who are even not supposed to know something, that information can get to them. And you never know when somebody hears something, how far or how fast somebody can distort or tamper information. The third consequences of not defining public, work will not be timed to make the most cost-effective use of working hours, materials, and equipment. So we will not be able to time whatever, check the time limits of whatever we are working for. And therefore, when we don't plan out well, you normally find that we use excess hours on something that we could have used very short time. We use even materials that were not supposed to be used because we didn't plan very well, and even equipment. So we need to plan and define our public to avoid wastage of resources at large. The other consequence is objectives will not be achievable when you don't define your publics. You can go and talk to a wrong public. Remember, your objective can never be achievable. If you are doing a product launch, hakuna venye utaenda ku launch a new product in a bank. In a bank, there are so many few people, and in fact, they will be working inside the financial institution. So you are supposed to know, if I'm doing a product launch, where am I supposed to go? If I need money, where am I supposed to take a loan? If I need to change suppliers, where am I supposed to go? Then lastly, management is such lack of just regard the peer practitioner as competent. So when you don't define your publics, remember, objectives will not be achievable. When objectives are not achievable, even the management at large will see there is no importance of the PR department inside our establishment, and therefore they will term you as redundant. When they term you as redundant, remember, your job has to be closed and you will have to be shown the door. So, questions? Winnie, kindly turn your microphone on na uongee tu. I will get you a bit faster. Winnie, your microphone is on. Can you just... Messages can be delivered in two forms. A message will either be written or a message can be delivered as an audio or on television set. If it is something that is written, hiyo inamaanisha itaandikwa kwa brochures, itaandikwa kwa local dailies kama kwa Nation ama standard government newspapers. You can do PR and write things about your establishment in the government dailies kama the Standard na Nation. If it is being written, it has to be written in a way that it reflects the standards of the establishment. Kama unaweka picha ya the touristic organization, I hope when ni mtu wa tourism sasa. So unaweka picha hata ya the tourism organization where you are working for, so that somebody can know the PR inafanywa for which company. Hata logo yenu unaweza weka hapo. Then you write the information that you want the public to know. Ukiandika, font size is very important. You make sure the company kama hata ni the Drum, True Love umewaendea, they write using the right font. Ndio mtu asistrain kusoma, the customer mwenye atasoma asistrain kusoma. You can add color. Remember, people write in black. Uki add color, the color will be a bit different. A good color. Unajua kuna colors zingine hazisomeki, but you use a good color, mgeni atasoma, which will be striking to the eye of the person who will have bought that newspaper to read it. So you just pay attention to font size, color, and even font type. Gazeti kila siku tunaandikiwa na Times New Roman. You move to Calibri and any other type of good font you want in place. Remember, you have the specifications that you can give people. Then if it is an audio, that information is supposed to be transmitted in an audio way. The voice enye inatumika has to be a nice voice. Don't use a dull voice. So you have to look for somebody who can speak sauti enye can give you whatever you want to achieve. Kama mnataka madem in your establishment, you want, dependent on the public you want or the segmentation you want, they can come. If it is something that will go live as a video, again, the person who is delivering the message, juni video, watu wataona kama advertisement. That person has to be sleek. Nywele has to be neat, nguo, kiatu, na kuwe mtu anaweza pia pronounce words clearly, so that akiongea, he or she is a true reflection in the establishment. Some weeks later, juzi hapa, we were speaking about the importance of PR department in an establishment. The reason why it is more important is because when you have such PR activities, you can do them by yourself. The PR practitioner and the PR staff can do it by themselves, which is much cheaper. Hiyo kazi ukifanya bado iko kwa ile mshahara yako yenye uliandikiwa ukijoin the job. But when you hire somebody else to do this PR work on behalf of the establishment, remember, you will have to pay him or her his wage, which will now be more costly to the establishment. Have I communicated to you, Winnie?